still small voice cries out to my soul.
Hey everyone, it's MK. Welcome back. So today it's a family affair at MK Quilts. I have with me my boys today. This is Samson. He's made several appearances. He's looking like he needs a groom again. And this is Mr. MK.
And I look like I need a groom again too.
This is what I live with daily, folks. So hopefully Mr. MK will be able to weave a few more of those little jokes in throughout this video. So what we thought we would do today is have Paul actually come up to the studio and have a little hands-on training. So as you know, Paul and I are a team in this endeavor for MK Quilts. He is my tech side of the house, he's my sales and service side of the house, and basically he's just there to help me with whatever needs to be done here. And he's been doing a great job at that. But I realized just recently that over the last 9 or so years that I've been quilting, he really has not done the actual hands-on quilting process. So we thought today would be fun just to have him come up, do a little training, see what it's actually all about, and hopefully he can get himself up to speed so that as I go around the country later on this year, he can be back home kind of minding the shop and keeping things running around here. All right? So, Paul, step up here a little closer. Before we get going, I have to do to Paul what Jody Davis did for me when I was out at Handy Quilter last year doing my recordings for Quilt at the Long Arm Quilting Show. Paul has to officially get his zinger. Oh.
Thank you.
Paul has to officially get his zinger. Let's see, I don't know which side you want it on, hun. There you go. So he's got his zinger and his scissor. So let's just talk a little bit more about today being a family affair. And Samson seems to want to be in this video, so we may have to put up with him. And just a little side note about Samson. I got Samson on Mother's Day 5 years ago. Yeah, he's pretty much Paul's dog now. Okay, so anyways, back to the quilts. So today is truly a family affair because what I have on the frame over here on McFinity and what is going to go on the frame for Paul to quilt over here on McFusion are two quilts made by my mom. Okay, my mom's a quilter. She actually hasn't been doing a whole lot of quilting just recently because one of my sisters had a new baby last fall and she's been busy, you know, babysitting and spending a lot of time with baby Walker. But she just recently got some quilts finished and she sent them on down, and so I just finished up with this one. Maybe later we'll get some close-up shots. Beautiful, beautiful Missouri Star Quilt Company quilt. That's my mom's favorite thing, watching Jenny Doan on YouTube. This is a beautiful quilt. I did an inside fit panto, 2 border treatments, fully chunked on those, and all of that instruction, of course, is in my online layout and rendering series. So that's a beautiful one from Mom. I believe over here, I think this was another Missouri Star quilt pattern as well. It's kind of a pinwheel, kind of a quilt, and it's really, really beautiful. And then my dad, although my dad is not a quilter, I had to give him a little shout out today because this was so special to me. For Christmas, my dad gave me this cute little kind of a faux featherweight machine. It's not real, it's really light, but it looks like a featherweight and I just love it. And then just in the mail, I don't know, I'm going to come a little closer that you can see. My dad made this little sign to go on the machine and it just says MK Quilts, a blessing in every stitch. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Dad. I love it. So let me just put that out of the way. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're probably just going to let the cameras roll for most of this, and then of course we'll do some editing. But I want Paul to get the feel of what this is truly like to actually load the quilt and pull up the design and mark the area and get it stitching. I might even pull the thread out of the needle so he has to do that. I really want him to feel comfortable stepping up to the machine if I'm not here and getting it done. All right?
Hold on. I need to do 2 things. One, I need to apologize to my mother-in-law for how her quilt turns out. And 2,
I'll be supervising.
I promise I won't be working on anyone else's quilts in her absence, okay? So I've been to my week training and just trying to get that tension right during training was tough enough, but Watching the videos has not made me an expert at this.
Well, and that actually is a good lead in, and I do want to mention that if you are watching this video and you are local here to Pinellas County in Florida, that's the Palm Harbor, Clearwater, St. Pete, even Tampa, Newport Richey, those types of areas, Paul is a certified tech now for Handy Quilter. So if you have a Handy Quilter machine and you need it serviced, give us a buzz and we'll send Mr. MK out, or you bring your machine in here. Okay. So we're gonna leave the cameras rolling, and I'm gonna walk Paul through this first step of loading this quilt. Okay, so the first thing you want to do always on a quilt is determine if the backing is big enough and what direction the backing goes. So I'm just kind of unfurling this, and I'm noticing that my mom has used a wide back on this. Okay, I love wide backs. Wide backs are the easiest to work with. Okay, so then usually I just lay it over the frame there, and then I bring my quilt in and I use my quilt to measure and see which way does the quilt need to go on the backing, and is it long enough. So I usually just kind of start over here, and I'm allowing a little extra there at the top. Are you watching and listening? All right, and I'm using the backing and I'm using the quilt just to make sure that I get down to the bottom, and yes, I have enough at the bottom. And then I use the quilt. I'm gonna allow a little extra on the side, and I'm gonna come this way. Okay. And since you're helping me today, we can do that. And is there plenty on the side?
Plenty on the side. You've trained your mother well.
All right, I have trained my mom well. Thank you, Mom. Okay, so one of the things that I do just to always make sure that I never lose what is my top edge, I mark it with a pin. Okay. And I just do it on the top left. So here's a pin on the top left for the quilt, and here is a pin. Sammy, you were not invited in this video. Here's a pin for the top left. So now I know if I get these separated that that's always the top for that, okay? Now we're gonna put, and we're gonna put this away just for a second because we don't need this right now, so we'll just put it over here on Mcfinity. Okay, next we wanna go ahead and get this centered on the frame. And I'm gonna take a minute as I'm doing this, as Paul is observing, to talk about the Leader Grip zipper bundle that I have going on right now on sale. As you know, if you've been following me, that is the Leader Grips and the zipper tab leaders that I have created. Those are on sale right now till the end of the month. I think I said I would keep them going that long. And those are bundled together. Normally that would be, I think, $169, and I'm giving you 20 bucks off, so $150. Just check out the website for that under the product store. Okay, so as you see, I found the center of the backing just by folding it in half. Now, there is a mark on most of my leaders. Here's kind of the center mark of this one. Okay. But with the way that I load, you don't necessarily have to load in the center. You can load a little bit down this way, or you can load a little bit, as long as it fits. This is a large quilt, so I'm pretty much going to kind of go in the center here. So I just basically found the center, and just so in case I drop it, and I don't want to lose that point. And then I just kind of come out here to the side and see where the side is going to fall on here.
So are you pinning this and then we're going to sew it later?
We're gonna pin it and sew it right now. Okay, so I'm just using the pins to temporarily hold this in place. And I like to have a little clearance down here on this end of the machine so that the machine can totally clear. Sammy?
No. Take two.
That I like to leave a little bit of extra space down here so that the machine can clear the side of the backing. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and move this down just a little bit. And I know ahead of time that I'm already going to have a little bit of extra space down there. So that's one of the things I like about this loading procedure, is that I really can load anywhere I want to on the frame. Okay, next Paul's going to try his hand at the sewing machine, because what I do now is I unzip this, and if you watch my YouTube video on my loading and on the zippers, you'll see that I'm just going to unzip this. And Paul is going to take this now over to my domestic sewing machine and sew this on.
Are we going to show them that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can record a bit of it.
So is this actually, this has to stay right like that?
Yep.
All right.
So as you see, Samson is insisting on being a part of the process. So cute. But what Paul is doing right now is on my sewing machine, I have put it on the longest basting stitch that my machine will do, and with needle down, and I had to slow the speed down because Paul was like off to the races.
Oh. Okay, I totally missed this.
Fail.
Fail.
This is why we practice. Okay, pause. All right, so we got a little bit off the road there, but Paul's getting it back lined up. He's going to try to keep both edges straight along with the edge of that zippered tab leader. Okay, you got to put the presser foot down. There you go.
I don't need to back stitch.
No, no back stitching, please.
So.
Because remember, if you've watched my loading video, you know that we're just going to rip this off, right off of that leader when we're done. So we want the loosest stitches possible.
Of course, this is always a lot easier when there aren't a whole bunch of people watching me screw up, but...
And when you don't have Samson on your lap. It may be a little bit simpler.
Sammy does have a tendency to be my productivity inhibitor. All right. Oh wait, I did it good? All right. Oh, quit laughing at me.
I love it.
I'm gonna make you install your next version of Quicken.
Oh, I thought he was gonna say Pro Stitcher. I'm like, hey, I can handle that.
Yeah, you can do that. All right.
Now remember, folks, what he's doing right here, obviously we're stopped for today and we're doing this one quilt at a time. But the whole purpose of me doing my loading in this manner is so that when I have both machines full and running, and let's say they're stitching away because my Pro Stitchers are running the show over there, what I can be doing is taking my zipper tab leaders that I've created, and I have several sets here at MK Quilts, and I can be getting my next backing prepared and sewn onto my leader tab. So that is the whole purpose of this. And just take that pin out, hon. Remember, that was just to kind of loosely mark our spot there. So the whole purpose of this is to keep things going quickly here in the studio. So when I'm done with the quilt, it's tear it off that tabbed leader, take the leader grips off the back, done. Get the next quilt out from the back room that's already been stitched to its own zipper tab leader, zip it on the frame, and load and go. Very, very fast process.
Unless I'm doing it.
You're doing fine, honey. As Paul finishes up, I'm just going to scan over here a little bit and just again show you a little bit of a tour of MK Quilts. And sorry, there's the tripod that we're using, but this is my space that I moved into last fall. Up there on the top is that sign that I had made while I was visiting Minnesota last fall. Ooh, getting that thing home on the plane was a trip. And then of course over here are all my quilts and those beautiful stained quilt display holder racks, I don't know what you want to call them, but that I had made for the studio using those jumbo size clothesline or clothespins. And yeah, it just turned out so beautiful. All right, I better get back and see if Paul's keeping it on the mark here. Oh, he's almost to the end. Just go ahead and stitch right off the end there, honey. Just a few past.
All right, then cut.
Yep. Give me a thumbs up.
By the way, the handy quilter machines also have a thread cut.
Yes, and I must mention that you know, moving in here has been a process. It's been a bit chunk of change, shall I say, that's gone into getting this space ready. And just adding on McFusion was a big financial step for us. But I do plan to get another machine or two in the shop. I'm hoping to bring in a Sweet 16, that's the sit-down machine for Handy Quilter, and I'm hoping to also bring in an Avante to add to the shop and to add to my rental program. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But and then I also probably towards the end of this year will try to bring in the HQ stitch machines and have all of that available on site here for people. All right, so time to help Paul get this thing loaded. All right, so he's over here back at the frame. He was asking about the zipper. The way that I have attached the zippers to the frame and to the leader tabs is always down at the left end of the frame when you're standing in the front. So he's gonna zip it on.
Oh, this is a simple way of doing this, isn't it?
All right.
If I can do it, holy cow.
All right, head around to the back side of the machine, Paul, and just kind of get that backing smoothed out over there. We'll get the machine out of the way here. All right, and since we're tag teaming it today, normally I would be doing this by myself, but I think I'll have Paul stay around to the back. I'll stay on to the front, and what you're gonna see me do, you've seen this in my YouTube video, is use my Mary Ellen's Best Press. This is the unscented version. I buy it by the gallon, and I'm just gonna be spritzing this quilt as I load it and roll it onto the leader, onto the front rail, and that's just gonna help take all, that's just gonna help get all of those wrinkles out. So I do hang my quilts in the back before they come out to be quilted, but I really don't worry too much about pressing them. I ask my customer to press that before she brings it in, and then when I load it, I just use the Best Press and spritz it as we go. All right, here we go. And just kind of keep it even on your back side there as I roll through this, and I'll keep it as even as I can up front. The other thing you may be noticing is I have two hand cranks on my frame, on both of my gallery frames here in the shop. And that is an item that you can get through me, through MK Quilts on my product store. And if you haven't already, add a wheel crank, a hand crank to your front bar. It just makes it go so much quicker.
But when you have them installed, make sure you crank down the bolt tightly, because if you don't, you can wear the plastic thing to where the crank doesn't work anymore. I've seen that with a couple customers already.
All right, good advice. Those types of things, I don't know. I don't keep up on those. That's what I got him for. Whoops. Okay, so we wanted to just stop that right before it came over to the front here. So let's just grab that and put it back over there.
It was my fault, dear. I'm sorry. She has me trained well.
Oh boy. Let's see, what date is it today? Gotta get that one written down. Okay, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna reposition the camera so that we can show you how I finish the loading from the back of the machine.
Right.
All right, so we're gonna have Paul step back in here because, by the way, he's supposed to be doing this, but I have to show him because this is his first time. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of these loading steps. You can watch that YouTube video in its entirety. But what I'm going to use in the back of the frame is the leader grip system. Okay, so I have my dowels in my casing, and I'm just going to pull this to the back as far as that leader will allow me. And then I'm going to drop it down onto the table. I'm going to drop it down onto the
I'm
table.
sorry, you didn't show me the little casing thing. That's interesting. Okay, you skipped a step. All right.
Okay.
That's actually on the bar. Okay, I got you.
All right.
I'm a little slow. You got to speak slower with.
All right, and this quilt that I have on the frame is just about as big of a quilt that I would want to use with these leader grips, because I want the grips to be able to be down on the table, and I can see that they're extending a little bit too far here, so I'm just going to push it down as far as it will go, so that dowel clears my ratchet over here. Okay, any quilt bigger than this one with the backing, I would go ahead and either pin it onto the back or sew it onto the back just like we did in the front. All right, Paul, what we're gonna be doing now is you just wanna make sure that this edge is over, just slightly over the, okay, slightly over, and you're gonna take one more glance and you're gonna make sure that that backing is coming nice and straight off of the front frame. And then I usually start at one end with these, with the grip part, and we're just gonna come on over here and we're gonna use the heel of your hand and you're just gonna gently press those onto the dowels that are in the casing, okay? Go ahead.
See, you always make it look so easy the first time out. Hey, that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Paul says it's cool. All
Cool.
right. Okay, so then you've got them twisted a little bit, but that should be okay. Now, so now you know the next part is this is over the top of the bar, which is not where it belongs. But so that we could get it straight, I wanted it up and over the bar. Now it has to get underneath the tension bar. So because we have the zipper tabs, we're gonna unzip this. This is the beauty of the zipper tabs. We're gonna unzip that. Paul, why don't you grab that end? We're tag teaming today. And we're just gonna drop that down and then reach under the tension bar and grab that zipper and insert it back into the pull tab. And just like that, we have our backing loaded. All right, Paul, as I crank this up, just go ahead and smooth that out down at that end.
Yeah, this video would be a lot longer if she had me do every step here.
All right, let's readjust the camera and we'll finish this up from the front. All right, so Paul, what I like to do with batting at this stage of the game, and especially since this is a large quilt, is I like to unfurl and unfold my batting back here so that it can just lay up on the table here. And then I just draped it over. Then we'll go ahead and walk around to the front of the frame, and then we can just grab the batting and pull it underneath of the bar that we have raised up into our pole cradles. Again, I got those in the store for sale too if you need some. Get your bar out of the way, get your batting laid out back here, and then we'll walk around to the front and we'll pull it under the bar. All right, so here we are at the front. Just go ahead and reach down there on your side, Paul, and go ahead and pull this under. Now, the one thing that I don't have on this frame yet, and I just saw the Handy Quilter came out with it, is it's called a batting hammock. And basically what it is a little sling type of a device that you can hook to your frame so that you can keep the batting up off of the floor. I have a homemade version of it over on Mcfinity.
Oh, you're pulling it all the way. Okay.
Okay, so I have a homemade version of it over on Mcfinity, but I will order up the ones from Handy Quilter to check those out. And it's just really an awesome thing to keep that batting off of the floor. Just doesn't, you know, just so that it doesn't pick up all the strings and the lint and the fuzz. Okay, so Paul, all we're doing is just bringing this batting in here and getting it straightened out.
All right.
And then we'll go ahead and put the pole cradles back down, or the pole out of the pole cradle. All right, Paul, you're gonna grab the handlebars now, because the way that I like to do the next step is I like to go ahead and give myself a nice channel lock line to give us a straight line so that we can put the quilt up there, right? Okay, Paul's gonna be grabbing the handlebars here. All right, on this step, Paul, what you want to make sure is that you don't get too close to the back of the machine. You don't want to get too close to this leader grip. And you're going to go ahead and put the Pro Stitcher into channel lock mode, which is under the Pro Stitcher menu. So go ahead and hit Pro Stitcher.
All right. Hey, I finally get to do something.
And
okay.
channel lock.
Channel lock right there.
And then what we want a horizontal channel lock.
Horizontal, so it won't let it go this way. It'll go straight. Okay.
Okay, so we've got horizontal channel lock on. Now we need to bring up our bobbin thread. I know I've showed you how to do that before.
This always looks so simple. Okay, so this is the fusion, not the other one. Yeah, talk me through it, just so I don't.
Okay.
I'm under pressure.
So he's freaking out, folks. Okay, so what we want to do is do a needle down and a needle up.
Okay. Yes, and that pulls
And then grab that.
string.
And if you gently pull the machine away a little bit, then you'll be
Pull
able
the
to.
thread up.
Yep, there you go.
And then pull that thread a little bit.
And go ahead and you can pull them out further just to give yourselves a longer tail there. So you can go ahead and just grab them together and just pull them out here.
Hard. Okay.
And then go ahead and hold on to them as you start stitching. Let's go ahead and evaluate what we're on. We can go ahead and leave it on.
13 per inch?
Yep, we can just leave it on that for right now. We're not basting or anything. We're just marking ourselves a line.
I'm going to start it and just
Yep,
all the way
just
down.
not too fast and not too slow. You're a speed demon.
2100 RPM.
It's 22.
22 here. 31 on the.
Okay, and just as you go along, if there's any places in the batting that need to be smoothed out.
Like, what about up here?
And I've got the machine in cruise mode, which just means the needle keeps going. If you stop without hitting the stop function on the handlebar, the needle will keep going up and down in cruise mode.
So, are we getting any extra bumps here I should be worried about?
Let's go ahead and stop it for a second. And we can stop it with needle down if we want to. Let's just go ahead and make sure we got enough.
I don't like that.
Yep, that looks good. Good job. You mind if I finish up?
No, you don't.
Stop and make sure I don't have anything down here on the table. We're almost down here to the end. Okay, I'm gonna let you do the cutting.
Oh, I get to use a sharp object. All right, here.
Okay, but we need to get the bobbin thread up again. So I've pulled the machine to the side and given myself some slack. Now I'm gonna hold on to that thread. I'm gonna come back to basically where I was, get the bobbin thread again. So now I've got the top thread and the bobbin thread that you can now cut.
Cut them both.
Okay?
That is actually very informative.
All right, we want to go ahead and get channel lock disengaged right now.
Down here or hit that again?
Either one. Either one will work.
Ah,
There you
okay.
go. All right, now we're going to load the quilt. And actually, nope, that top button didn't work. So we just both learned something. If we click on channel lock, the
You
channel
have to
lock
hit
is
the
still
one
on.
on the right.
Yep, there we go.
Ah,
Okay.
I see.
All right, now here, Paul, is where we're going to run into a little bit of difference on, and this is personal preference on how we actually load the quilt. Samson wants to be included again.
We'll ignore him.
Okay, so what I am going to do at this process is I'm going to install a leader back onto the top bar, and we are going to pin our quilt onto this bar, and then we're going to roll the quilt up onto this bar. A lot of people do what they call floating the quilt, where they're not going to attach the quilt at all to this bar. They would go ahead and lay the quilt on top of what we've just loaded here. They would baste it down and then proceed with the quilt.
So there's actually 3 leaders involved in this?
Yes.
Wow.
All right, so this is just my personal preference way to load quilts. I like to actually have them wound onto the bar. I think it gives me a more even bottom to the quilt. It allows me to nicely distribute the quilt evenly across this top leader. Okay, so we can leave the camera running. We'll go ahead and do that process. I'm gonna let Paul do some pinning, and we can fast forward the
Trust me, there will be a lot of editing.
okay. Okay. When you reattach the leader, you're going to want to start at one end and attach it to the Velcro So I'm not gonna help you with this.
So, but this will fit if I just start anywhere along here.
Yep. Okay, now the only thing that I would adjust, just because I can see that you ran short on this end and we're way over on this end, is I would probably adjust this a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But you didn't, yeah, I mean, you didn't know that when you got started, but these are things that I'm teaching you. The next part is I like to loosen this backing so that it gets out of the way as we're loading the quilt. So I just went ahead and drooped that down. Go ahead and lean this over the top, let it lay itself down on there. And then I'm just rolling it up just so that it kind of comes about halfway in the middle there. This is another reason why I left a gap down here so that the machine can get out of the way. Okay, so that can completely. Now, we have a little bit of extra room, so we could actually load a quilt that was bigger, and in that case, there's just no getting away from the backing being kind of in the way of the machine. Okay, so remember when we started, we put that pin at the top left-hand corner of the quilt. That's a very important step that I do always in my loading process so that I don't ever load a quilt wrong and run the risk of running out of backing by the time I get to the end, okay? So I always put those pin markers for myself so that I know that I'm loading it correctly. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, basically, Paul had asked about there not being a center marker on my quilt leader. At this point, I really don't need a center marking on my quilt leader because I now have my backing loaded and I can just take the quilt and I can center it now on the backing. Okay, so I can see I have a bigger distance over here, so I'm gonna go ahead and move that over. That compensates on that side, looks good. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start pinning in the middle. I'm gonna put one pin here and then I'm gonna pin out in that direction, come back to the middle and pin in that direction so that I evenly distribute this quilt along this leader.
So do I get a manly pin cushion on my wrist?
We'll have to work on that. Okay, and then what you're gonna do, Paul, is just basically put these end to end. It's not critical that they end up being, you know, touching end to end, but you want them to
leave a little bit of a gap and
basically be end to end. Okay.
Guys, I only do this because I love her very much. Between this dog and quilting, I have no testosterone left in my body, but I'm not out picking up chicks, let's just put it that way.
Thank God for that.
Sings my heart, sings.